the last section, we talked a lot about growth. We talked about scale. And we talked about linear growth. Scale is all about taking what you're doing right now and doing it more frequently, adding different strategies from our strategy quadrant, fresh ideas, right? So we can lead to faster linear growth. We also talked about speed, right? In our team section. And we also talked about our plans moving forward, our priorities. All of that is in line with linear growth. In the next 3 years, we want to be doing X amount in these divisions, and that's all great. However, quantum is all about exponential growth. And it's about campaigns, initiatives, thinking that will lead you to a leap. It's not really even an exponential function of growth, it's a leap of growth. It is something that you do that transforms the operation. It could be a ripple effect. It could be, for example, supplement companies or fitness clothing companies. Maybe if they had a meeting like this 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, they would have said, hey, here's all our different strategies. These are different things we need to implement to grow this division, grow this division, grow this division. And then a new company pops up and their entire strategy is what Gymshark did. Influencer marketing, right? Nobody's even, what's an influencer? What is that? That is a quantum leap that takes that company to $1 billion in a matter of a few years. Right? Uber comes in, says, hey, listen, I mean, how many taxis are we going to have? We have 60 taxis. Okay, next year we're going to have 65, 70. Uber's like, forget about all this stuff. We're revolutionizing. We're changing the way that we look and approach an idea. That's what quantum is all about. We're going to take everything we've talked about and we're going to try to approach it with new thinking. We want to introduce new thinking into our operation. That's what quantum leaps are all about. We start over, we question everything, right? We want to conceptualize what it would be like to tear down and build up the entire company and how that would look like. Can we build it up in a new way? Are there things that we're doing now that we shouldn't be doing? Are there things that we're not doing that we could be doing, but in a different way? Okay, we're going to look at that. And then we're going to talk about the vision forward. But first, part of quantum is also about creating exponential speed. And we'll talk about that in a second as far as orders of magnitude. But to me, everything that we've talked about as far as our plan needs to be boiled down to runs. We're here primarily to manufacture a run. And a run to me is a short period, usually 90 days of really concentrated action in one specific area. Okay? It's really, really effective to split things up into seasons, into runs. Sports teams do this, right? You see sometimes they're in the middle of a game and then boom, the team gets on a run. They're performing a certain way the entire game and then it just changed. Something shifted and now they're performing at a whole new level, right? Are they going to sustain that the entire game? No. Are they going to have a great season and then next season are they going to sustain it? Maybe. But they compartmentalize and look at things in seasons. That's how we need to look at it as well. Right? We're already doing that in part because we have, okay, winter season, this season, next season. We have seasons and seasonality in our business, which actually is a great thing because it allows us to look at things differently. But we also need to introduce this idea of runs. One of the clear examples of this is I was listening to a speech by Tom Brady when I was at a conference recently. And, he's won 7 different championships. And he's like, listen, I'm not looking at this thing as I need to have a 25-year career and win 7 championships. I'm just focused on this year, this season, this next period of time, my training camp. I just break everything down like that. We also talked about 3 other things. Or really 2 other things. The power runs is number 3, but it was just a regular guy. He's on stage, he's a regular dude. Nothing really crazy special about him. And there's 3 specific ways that he was able to transform himself being a regular guy and constantly punching up, constantly pushing up in every single level of his career, from all the way from elementary school to high school to college to the pros. He was constantly punching up. He was never a prodigy. He was never a gifted athlete. He was never any of these things. He just consistently was punching up, punching up, punching up, competing with somebody bigger. And I always feel like we're always in that stage. Because the second that we get to a certain point, we immediately create an enemy and a target that's much larger than us, to where we have to now punch up. You never punch sideways. You never punch down. You always punch up and exponentially higher, right? So he talked about 3 things. 1, the power of discipline that helped get him there. Okay. 2, power of your team. And 3 was the power of runs. Okay. So discipline, the power of discipline, the way he describes it was a little bit different, because it goes like, it's not about being more or less disciplined in his eyes than somebody else, right? It's about being disciplined for a longer period of time. And what was unique about what he was saying is, it's not about how many different things can you incorporate into your schedule, how many different action items, how many different things can you do. I'm going to also do this, also do this. Also. It's not about doing that. It's about doing just the very basics, right? Having a disciplined schedule and doing the very, very basics, and just doing them a lot more than everybody else, right? Because virtually any pursuit that we're trying to go after requires consistency. And every single pursuit that we're trying to get after is within a market. And the market is comprised of other people going after the same pursuit. These other people going after the same pursuit are going to pursue it for a certain period of time and then drop off. It's like that in, simple example, podcasting, where something like 1% of podcasts makes it past the first 10 episodes, right? It's like that in sports. It's like that in business. 99% of companies beyond a specific point in time don't make it. But that's all just based on consistency and doing the basics for a longer period of time, right? So for us, we can manufacture some of these runs in order to break up this discipline so that it just doesn't seem like this never-ending cycle, right? We break it up, we do it for a concentrated period of time, and then we reset, we refocus again. Right? The next thing was team. We talked a lot about this. The power of a team, and specifically about knowing your teammates. The biggest takeaway for me personally from an event like this is knowing more about you guys here. That's the biggest takeaway. If I know more about you, and I've learned a lot about you that I didn't know, I've learned more about other people here, right? The more I know about the team, the more that you know about each other, the more you can trust each other. The more you trust each other, the faster you can go. We already talked about that with speed. So the greatest byproduct of things like this is knowing your teammates and trusting your teammates more, right? And that was one thing that he stressed, okay? So great teams are committed to one combined goal. We also want to align the goal, and again, we're doing that here. They have open feedback loops, okay? Question each other, push back on each other. Be the no, yes, yes, no, right? Be the no, no sometimes. Push back on each other. Can push back on each other without compromising culture. We're not pushing back on our team in a way that offends them and pushes them too far beyond the breaking point. We don't want that. We don't want to compromise culture with that, but we still want to push back. They have ultimate trust based on integrity and mutual interest. Okay, we trust each other and we have mutual interest. And they match the desires of one another. Okay? Now, this is important with teams, because when one individual on the team wants to take more credit, it diminishes the rest of the team. Because the way it works is, when one person becomes a champion in their own sport or in their own avenue, they're a champion. When a team becomes a champion, every single person on the team is a champion. It doesn't matter who did more or less. Everybody on the team is a champion. But if one person tries to do more and play a different role than they're supposed to, then the entire team doesn't win. And then nobody's a champion. Maybe you're a champion team and one person did more and they had a bigger role or whatnot. That's fine. But we all want to be champions together, not be individual champions, right? And the third one was creating these seasons, right? So the way we're going to manufacture seasons is by creating a paradigm shift. And we're going to do this every 90 days. This is the first one of the year. And then we're going to break down our time horizons to 90 days. Quarters, right? There's a reason why they have these quarters, right? Because the goals and the action items that you want to chart for yourself really shouldn't go beyond 90 days for them to be ultimately effective. And then we can reassess and see where we're at. Maybe it's the same goal that you're working on for years and years and years. But you just check back with yourself every 90 days to make sure that you're still aligned. If you need to pivot on that goal, you do. Okay? So every 90 days, we need to manufacture a run. And it's a greater level of urgency. Okay? Creating seasons also helps you track progress over shorter periods of time. Okay? Helps you adjust course and pivot faster. Helps you track goals over a digestible period of time, and ultimately multiple sprints lead to a long marathon. But what's different with the marathon is we can just go faster at each one of these runs. We can go as fast as we can, but we're not going to run the whole race at maximum speed. We're just not going to do that. Every great leader and great company that I've studied has some idea of this. Musk talks about this too with his surges. They would create these surges where everybody just starts working at a heightened speed on one mutual goal. And then once that was done, they would focus somewhere else. And it wouldn't be just whoever is working in that specific division. He's calling people from the whole company. Hey, we need to launch this rocket. Forget about, let's get people from the factory. Let's get all these people here because we need to do this thing together. Same thing. Right now, we have a surge going on. Right? We have a surge going on to start our year and to kick things into high gear. We want to set our season up right for the summer. We're going to have a surge this summer season at some point when we start building our headquarters. That's going to be a surge. We're going to have a summer selling surge. And that's where we all get together and work on mutual things to speed things up, because the combination, again, back to team, the combination of all of our different pieces can help us get there faster. Okay, so today, when we get to our last section and direction, you're going to create your 90-day sprint. I've been doing this the last 2 years. It's the most effective thing I've ever done. I just know that for the next 90 days, this is what I'm doing. I don't care. And it's a sprint. And you just achieve much, much faster. Okay? He talked about it too as well. Next is our orders of magnitude. Okay? And both of these things have to do with creating quantum leaps. First, we create the urgency through runs. Next, we introduce order of magnitude thinking. Okay? An order of magnitude is 10 times faster, 10 times larger. It's just 10 times whatever you're currently doing. Okay? And this is really, really effective because in studying great leaders, and again, great companies, there's so much talk of this order of magnitude. I even watched this old interview of Jobs in like 1981. He's talking about order of magnitude, order of magnitude. But what's this order of magnitude? Why does everybody keep talking about this order of magnitude thing? The largest mutual common lesson in the PayPal mafia, which was basically Peter Thiel, Musk, Brin, there's a few guys, and they basically all were running PayPal. And then all these guys ended up breaking off, and then each of them ended up starting their own multi-billion-dollar companies. But how did all these guys from one company, and PayPal wasn't that big at the time, all just break off and then all start doing these crazy endeavors on their own, right? And it was this order of magnitude idea that they all adopted. So, and we're going to study that in a moment. When you look at something as an order of magnitude, it changes the way you think about it. Okay, so let's say that whatever we're currently doing, it's, okay, you got to do it in 20% less time. Okay, well, hey, we can cut here, we can cut there, we can do this. Hey, we got to grow this next year by 20%. No problem. Order of magnitude. Next year, we got to grow 10x. 10 times. Whatever process you're currently working on, we need to do it 10 times faster. You can't solve that with linear thinking. How are you going to do this 10 times faster? How are we going to grow 10 times in the next quarter? That doesn't make any sense when you're talking about linear thinking. So orders of magnitude force a different type of thinking. They force a new thinking, a new way of approaching a problem. You have to almost tear it down and start over. Because the way that you do something 10 times faster is by completely changing what it is that you're doing. And then you start looking at it from ground principles, first principles, okay? Where, just like we said before, the only laws are those of physics. That's how these guys did it. Like, okay, what are we looking at? Payment processing? Cool. Cars? No problem. Hotels? Yep. Hey, rockets? What? Doesn't matter. They're looking at an industry, solar, whatever. They're looking at it and they're going, okay, well, we need to change this entire thing up because for us to do something 10 times quicker or 10 times faster. The other thing that an order of magnitude creates is a clear differentiator that can foster momentum and can foster a monopoly. So as we're approaching certain problems and as we're approaching our company, I want to introduce this order of magnitude thinking, okay? Because our linear growth is going to be just fine. But what can we do to go an order of magnitude more? To go an order of magnitude faster? And it's not going to be in the ways that you're thinking. It's going to be in a different way, in a new way. Okay? So, orders of magnitude thinking forces new ideas, unique solutions, and urgency. Okay? Unique solutions. Last part about quantum leaps is blue ocean strategy. Blue ocean strategy, right? Blue ocean strategy, orders of magnitude, they all work together, right? Why are we going to compete in one area when we could just compete in a totally different one? Creating a blue ocean is creating an order of magnitude differentiator. If you are an order of magnitude faster, better than somebody else, you already have a blue ocean created for yourself. We had the example of Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil is an order of magnitude better than the circus. Because the tickets are 5 times more and they can fit 5 times more people into the freaking stadium. There you go. They're an order of magnitude better. They can generate an order of magnitude more revenue. They can scale an order of magnitude faster. They can perform more shows in a shorter period of time, way more shows. So it just trickles down. So these are just some questions that I have here, but I'm actually going to move on from this to the next part. But these are some things that we want to be thinking about, okay, as far as the industry is concerned. What factors does the industry currently compete in? How can these be eliminated? What factors should be created that the industry has never offered before? What factors should be created that the industry has never offered? What factors should be reduced well below industry standard? Are there any? Okay? It's great to believe you can beat all competitors, but not at someone else's game. Okay? The goal is to compete in areas where the knowledge and skill of the competition is far inferior to yours. Those will be our focus areas moving forward. When you're talking about blue ocean strategy, ask yourself, what are the areas where our knowledge and skill are far below our competitors? We're younger. We have clear thinking. We have adoption of technology and content and everything that we're doing. But the real clear differentiator is our thinking. We are going to think differently. Our competitive advantage and our blue ocean should be thinking differently about the same problems, and then through that, creating our next opportunity. Okay? This is a challenging concept to grasp. So we're going to do a little case study on this, okay? On creating a quantum leap. Again, I'm bringing multiple themes from multiple angles. So this case study is based on my observations from another book that I read, 0 to 1, by Peter Thiel, who was another member of this PayPal mafia with Musk and everybody else. I just wanted to study all these guys and see what they're doing and what types of things created these massive results for all of them. Okay? So I want you to answer this. What important truth do very few people agree with you on? What important truth do very few people agree with you on? Okay, while I'm presenting this, take some time and answer this question, okay? Now, this question is challenging because it requires reflection about knowledge that you've created for yourself. Because this can't be something that many or even most or even some people agree with you on. It has to be something that very few people agree with you on, okay? And it also can be socially unpopular to take a different stance. The reality is that brilliant thinking requires courage, right? And it's hard to imagine something that doesn't exist. So this premise and the entire premise of the book and how to create this quantum leap is that the most valuable thing about a company is new thinking. The most valuable thing about a startup is new thinking. The most valuable thing that will take us to the future is new thinking. New thinking. And new thinking is one of the hardest things to do because we put mental roadblocks on ourselves for every single one of the new ideas that we have. Right? But the reason it's called 0 to 1 is because the idea is that you take a 0 to 1 leap. The new idea, the new thinking takes you from 0 to 1, from something that doesn't exist to something that exists, not from something that exists and is optimized to the nth degree, because optimization leads to red oceans. Optimization leads to competition. Competition leads to death of companies, and competition leads to a race to the bottom. We're in a competitive red ocean right now with our current industry. We do have certain aspects of our business and of our companies that are introducing new thinking. But primarily, the industry that we compete in is a red hot ocean. And we need to transform that red ocean to a blue ocean and go 0 to 1. Okay? And I've got some ideas around that. Now, the catalyst to changing these red oceans and the catalyst to creating these quantum leaps are startups. Okay? A startup is the largest group of people you can convince of a plan to build a different future, a different product, a different idea. a startup. We like to think of ourselves as a startup because I believe in startup thinking. We're not a startup in the sense that we're working on a new idea necessarily. We're just working on the same thing, but trying to take a different approach. But startup thinking is very important. And the main premise of this is that all great companies, he says all happy companies, are different in that they approach different problems and they go 0 to 1 in different problems and they achieve monopolies in different problems. All unhappy companies are the same. They fail to create their differentiator, they fail to create their monopoly, and they go on that other chart down the red ocean on a race to the bottom. Okay? So the other part of this question then, what truth would very few people agree with you on, is what valuable company is nobody building? Right? And a valuable company creates value and captures value. Okay? And essentially, he talks about these tails, which is there is no middle ground. There's only firm A, which ultimately, eventually, over time, over the largest time horizon, will compete in a perfect competition. And firm B, on a large enough time horizon, will compete in a perfect monopoly. You're only going one of two ways. You're either creating differentiation or you're going back into competition. Now, sometimes companies like to disguise. And companies with monopolies like to disguise themselves as firms who have large amounts of competition. And companies who have lots of competition like to disguise themselves as people who have somewhat of a niche of a monopoly. We compete in the, we have, we're one of the most innovative, youngest, fastest growing snow and ice management companies in the space. We're in the home service or the service industry. It's a huge industry with lots of competition, right? Same thing here, right? He talks about the example of trying to create a differentiation. We're the only British restaurant in Palo Alto. No, you're in the restaurant business. One of the most competitive spaces that you can be in. Whereas Google, right, it'll say that it has a very small share of this specific market. But then Google's a monopoly, right? So we need to recognize that we are competing in a red ocean of perfect competition. And we can try to disguise that, but it won't change that fact. Okay? Society is obsessed with competition. There's lots of analogies between business and war.